Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Let's see here. Hey, Chris. Are you muted? Hold on. Okay. Get this. Where is everybody? Admit. There we go. We had someone joined this morning, I think.
That was me.
Well, I know you did, Chris.
I did.
Yeah, Lisa. Okay. So are we all here? Okay. All right, well, look, I think we're all here. We might be missing one other person, but we'll start since you all were here. And I have another call right after this at 12, which got added to my calendar late yesterday. So I'm gonna have to stop a couple of minutes before 12. So why don't we get started? Why don't we quickly, I'll introduce myself and then y'all can tell us a little bit about yourself. My name's Chris Corrigan. I am a lawyer turned writer. I practiced labor and employment law for 15 years and then was a legal writer and editor for another 12. And I had a cancer diagnosis 4 years ago and decided that I was going to write what I wanted to write from now on. So I've been a freelancer for the last 4 years. My published work is all on my website, which I'll give you at the end of the program. And I have a book coming out in October about my cancer experiences, both as an adult and a teenager, and kind of my big takeaways from them. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm very excited to be teaching these classes with the new school, with the adult school rather. And this is my, I guess, second one. I taught creative nonfiction writing last fall. And I'm just happy to do these journaling classes. Since we're all trapped inside, may as well do something creative while or not, but it's fun. So why don't we just go around the room or around the screen? So Lisa, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Lisa. I teach a lot of classes for the adult school. I've written 2 books. I'm trying to write a children's book. So I'm an artist. My husband is a tech guy. That's why I have my whole view of my art room.
I was going to say it's gorgeous.
And that's it. That's all I want to say.
Chris?
She's got to unmute.
You have to unmute.
Okay, I'm Chris. I was a lawyer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. Here you go.
Okay, I'm Chris. I was a lawyer way back when. I did environmental law, and now I actually work for the adult school. So, and I'm a friend of Chris's, so I'm looking forward to journaling.
Okay, Mary Jo.
Mute myself. Oops. Hi, I'm a retired, I guess, a social worker. I did many things in my life, actually. I am presently teaching French at Berlitz School. And since, we have more time on our hands, I figure I will take this time to do what I always like to do, which is to write, and I always put it back as an excuse. I never have enough time to do it.
Great, thank you, welcome. Michelle?
Unmute.
Nope.
Wait a minute.
Got it. Nope. We're playing mute, unmute. There you go.
All right. Sorry about this. I'm not very technically savvy. I'm very excited to be here. During this crazy time, obviously, it's nice to have a distraction. I am an office manager at a dentist office. Not my dream job, but it saved my life after a horrible divorce, and trying to redefine myself as a mom. The job set me free in a sense, and I thought it would be temporary. I thought I'd go back to college. I thought I'd do a lot of things, but life is crazy. So with all that being said, there are a couple books in me that I just can't seem to put on paper. I have all these thoughts in my brain, can't organize. I have a children's book in my mind. I have my story. You know, divorce is an unfortunate, don't wish on anybody, and but it was a necessary evil. And just this limbo that I'm in now, that I want to just sort of, you know, put down on paper and give hope to others. And I just don't know where to begin. And my sister actually found this opportunity, and she's been trying to get me to write for a long time. And I could send the greatest emails and I can send the greatest texts, but the second I want to write, nothing hits the paper or the laptop. So I'm hoping that this journey will set my creative fire free, and it's nice to meet everybody.
Well, thank you, welcome. And I guess Sylvia?
I have to thank you for giving us this opportunity, offering your services for free. And it seems like I've been writing my whole life. I was an English major in college, and then I worked for a large pharmaceutical company, and I wrote many reports. And then I retired, and I'm doing volunteer work now, and I'm still writing a lot of reports. But I don't seem to be able to focus on any kind of personal journal. And I thought, oh, this is a good opportunity, because we all have this extra little bit of time. So that, and I do have another reason too. I have a partial responsibility for trying to get some courses online. So I'm signing up for a number of online courses just to see the platform and format.
Good. Okay, well, that's great. And so what we're going to do to start, and again, I'm not the most tech savvy person either. I've been practicing with Zoom, so we'll see how well this goes. I'm going to try to share my screen, which is a PowerPoint. Fingers crossed. I practiced yesterday, but here we go. So let's see. Oh, I know why, because it's not. There we go.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Okay, so can everyone see that?
Yep.
All right,
Yes.
so Tell It Slant is actually a quote from an Emily Dickinson poem, which I love. I love Emily Dickinson. I'm going to read you the poem. It's also the name of a really great craft book that I rely on heavily, also called Tell It Slant. So the poem goes, tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies too bright for our infirm delight. The truth, superb surprise, as lightning to children eased with explanation kind. The truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. And I think that's a beautiful sentiment when it comes to personal journaling and personal storytelling. And so I want to go through some just sort of basic, I will call them ground rules before we get going, that I do in any writing workshop I do. And here's the thing. A writer is someone who writes. That's it. You got a pencil, you got a notebook, or a laptop, or a tablet. You put words in it, that makes you a writer. Now, that's not necessarily the same as being a published author, but a writer is someone who writes. And we have this sort of, you know, I don't know if it's cultural or, you know, this, you know, view that, you know, writing as someone is up in their ivory tower, or Ernest Hemingway's, you know, jotting away in the Café du Margeau in Paris, or, you know, Emily Dickinson was in her garret all by herself dressed in white. Anybody can write, you know, anybody can do it. So if that's a hang up, I'm giving you permission to let it go. And everyone has a voice and a story that's worthy of respect. Because writing is one of these universal things. We all have stories, and we all have the right to tell them in our own way. So the last sort of, call it ground rule or whatever, is if we share, and you always have the option to share your work if you'd like, as we go along, or if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. But whatever we read and whatever we say here stays here, just out of respect for each other, particularly if you're writing about things that are hard, you know, and most for whatever reason, that those are the places we end up going to when we write. Not always, but often. Okay, so here's, you know, here are the things that stop people from writing. Why can't, you know, why don't you write? And the biggest reason people always give when I ask them, well, why don't you write? And it's time, you know, and I was guilty of that too. I mean, I journaled my whole life. You know, I have bookshelves of journals, you know, and I always wondered, well, why don't I write? Well, I can. I have little kids. I have a busy job. I have a busy life. You know, I don't have the time to do it, or I'll do that, you know, when I retire, when I'm older, when the kids are grown and flown, or, you know, I have the luxury of time. And I think the present circumstance we all find ourselves in is really given a new definition, I think, to what the passage of time is. A lot of times people don't write because it's scary. You know, it can be very, very frightening to put your thoughts on paper, because very often we go to these places that we don't really want to touch because they're hard to touch. All of us have been touched in some way by trauma or grief or loss or fear or anxiety or whatever. And those aren't easy things to touch, you know. And then sort of the last idea is that, well, it's sort of frivolous and a luxury, and, you know, we don't have time to do that in our busy, very productive, you know, always moving American lives, you know, where, you know, the idea if you sat down and actually took some time for yourselves, you know, the Puritans would be surely frowning upon you. So, so what if you flipped your mindset about what writing is? Louise DeSalvo, who is a author, she writes a lot of craft books. One of her books is called Writing to Heal. And in that book, she offers these images about what writing is. And my favorite is the first one. It's the fixer, which you can think of in two ways. If any of you do film photography or know someone who does and develops their own film, my older son is a photographer and he likes to use film. And the fixer is the last stage in the developing process. It's where the image is fixed on the paper. And I also like to think about it as a compass point. It's a fixer. You can fix your place in your life through your writing. Alice Walker, the author of The Color Purple, called writing a sturdy ladder. She said that her need to write was a matter of necessity. So it's been a sturdy ladder out of the pit. It's been a way to freedom and refuge for her. And then another image is of a balm, you know, like a soothing balm, you know, some lovely like hand cream or whatever. You know, it's a way to soothe something. And so what I always tell new writers or suggest to new writers is you have to honor your desire to write. All of you are here because you have that desire. And here's the thing, those stories that are inside of you are not going to go away. They're just not. They're going to hang out and linger in your head until you tell them. That's just the way it is. It's, you know, for writers, there is no other way to existence other than putting the words on the page. So we're going to start. You don't need anything special. You got a pen, you got a paper, you got a laptop if you prefer. You can do it anywhere, anytime. You can share your work or you can keep it private. You can do it when you're sick, you can do it when you're well. But the key to writing, the key to really making writing a part of your life is to make it a practice, like any other practice you might have in your life, whether you do yoga or you meditate or you walk every day or go to the gym when you can go to the gym again. You know, make it a practice. And the easiest way to make it a practice is to tack it on to something you're already doing. So say it's your practice to walk your dog every day at 6:30 in the morning, come in and make yourself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Take 10 minutes and take out your journal and write. And start small. Give yourself a goal. Doesn't have to be a big one. Start with 10 minutes a day, 4 or 5 days a week. See if you can do that. If you can do 10, you're going to be able to do 20. If you're a numbers person and you don't like counting minutes, you could count words. You know, if you're typing, a page is 250 words, double spaced, 12-point font. So if you start to break it down into like little pieces of writing, it's not so overwhelming. You don't have to sit down and be able to pen the great American novel all at once or tell your whole life story all in one shot. And so what we're going to do right now is I want everybody, we're going to begin with talking about memories. But first, I just want everybody to get a little grounded and take 5 minutes to just write, where are you right now in your life? Your writing life, your bigger life, whatever you want to put on the page. 5 minutes, where are you right now? take about 2 more minutes. Okay. Y'all grounded? Give me like a thumbs up. Okay, we're good? Okay, so like, that's like the deep breath, you know, that's deep cleansing breath you start every meditation or yoga practice or exercise class with. Whatever, you know, wherever you are right now, you've got that out on the page, and now we can like focus on really where the work begins. And I think you have to begin at the beginning when you start writing. And maybe this isn't necessarily the thing that you want to write about in your mind. Maybe this isn't the, you know, the theme that you want to start with, but to start a journaling practice and a writing practice, one of the best places to start is at the beginning. And what is your earliest memory? Because those memories are really your own creation story. Because your earliest memory is the thing that you'd have to have a conscious mind and language to recall. You know, you can't dream until you have language, right? Which is why you don't generally remember those very early days of being a baby or a 1-year-old, because you don't have language. But by the time your 2s are in your mid-2s, 3s, and you're developing language, that's when you get to develop, that's when memory starts developing too. And they've been described, you know, as your own creation story, or as river teeth. One essayist, David James Duncan, calls those early autobiographical memories river teeth. And river teeth are parts of trees that if they fall in the river, they're like the hard knots that don't decay. They just hang out at the bottom of the river, and they're called river teeth. Virginia Woolf describes these shocks of memories as your moments of being. It's that time where you come into being as an individual person. So that's what I want you to start thinking about. What is your earliest memory? And when you start to write about this, whatever it happens to be, you know, just stay with it. And if you get stuck, just write, I remember. I remember. And consider writing it in the present tense when you start writing these memories, because if you write in the present tense rather than in the past, it forces you to be present in that moment. Now, here's a really cool thing about writing when we remember things. if you close your eyes and remember, maybe your favorite place, and for me, that's a beach on Cape Cod. You close your eyes and you remember your favorite place. As far as your brain is concerned, there's no difference between the actual experience of being there and your memory of it. It's the same thing neurologically, which is why being able to visualize, favorite places in times of stress is a great way to reduce our anxiety, because as far as your brain's concerned, if you put yourself there mentally, it doesn't know the difference. Isn't that cool? It's kind of a cool, little fact. When you start writing these earliest memories, try to avoid your internal editor, and we all have them. It's the voice in the back of your head, that tells you you suck, you can't write, why would you want to write, because nobody's going to read this anyway. It's like that third grade teacher or whatever teacher. I'm not picking on third grade teachers necessarily, but the first time you handed in one of those themes or essays and you thought it was just the essay about your fondest wish in the world was to have a pet turtle. And, you got the paper back and there was lots of red ink on it and that was it. Your whole dream about having a pet turtle was completely value judged. And you internalize those feelings, even as adults, we go back to them, that person at the back of your head who's telling you, you can't do this. And that is the Annie Lamott, who's one of my favorite authors, calls it the curse of perfectionism. And you just have to tell that person to, hello, Gladys, to go away and just move on. Because if you get stuck in the, if you get stuck with your internal editor, then you're, you're not going to get any writing done. So, so why don't you start? Let's take 10 minutes. Think of your earliest memory, and just without stopping, just let your pen or pencil or fingers go. Just write it down, whatever comes to mind. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about punctuation. Don't worry about if you think maybe later there's a better word you can use. Just don't even. Just go with the memory and just go for 10 minutes and see where you land. Right, like take 2 minutes, 2 or 3 more minutes. How's everybody doing? Good? Okay. Anybody have any questions so far? No? I'll ask again at the end. Okay, so how did that go? How'd that feel for everybody? Anybody want to share? I mean, not necessarily what you wrote, but just how that felt.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Hold on a minute. Alt. Am I better? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Okay. No, I just thought it was really, to get the visual of this first memory. One, it was a good memory, so it just flowed, and the details kind of popped in as I was writing, and more memory was coming back. Where it goes from there, I don't know, but it was a moment in time that I captured, which was kind of fun. I don't know, it's kind of chicken scratch if you want me to read it real quick.
You can read it if you'd like. You don't have to. It's up to you.
Do we have time or no?
Yeah, we have time.
Okay. We are driving down Valley Street. It's in my hometown, a summer day after a terrible thunderstorm. The windows are open in our green 1974 Chevy Impala. My dad's elbow is on the door with windows wide open. I remember being excited. We were going somewhere I can't remember. All of a sudden, we stop. My dad pulls over fast. We get out of the car. He's holding my hand as we cross the street and approach a chain link fence on the other side of a golf course. I see it now too. A big tree is on fire in the middle of the golf course. It must have been hit by lightning, my father said. He's a fireman, so I'm excited. Dad picks me up and helps me over the gate. He climbs over and starts walking ahead of me very fast. I yell at him, "Daddy, don't walk so fast." He stops and walks back to me smiling. We watch, we approached the old tree and waited. Suddenly fire trucks appeared on the golf course. I'm scared, but I'm excited too. I feel safe. And I get home and there is a record waiting for me. I forget the name of the singer, but it was called "Daddy, Don't You Walk So Fast." And it was just this, that's part of my story, but that's where I got. And I forgot all about that record until I started writing.
And that's the coolest thing about writing is, particularly if you're doing it by hand, like, and I don't know why this is another neurological fun fact. When you write physically by hand, it opens up neurological pathways in your brain. That's why the memories that you hadn't thought about that album in, you know, however many years showed back up in your head.
Yeah.
Because the actual physical act of writing unlocks those memories.
Yeah, it was funny. I forgot all about that record.
Really cool.
Yeah.
And you said something that was really interesting, was that you were able to start to get the details, and that is really that sort of the next sort of part of the process. So wherever you are with the memory, once you have it down on paper, like the first draft of it, part of developing the scene into, or the memory into a scene, into a story, whatever, is really going back and digging into the experience using all of your senses. So, and this is called imagistic endurance to do this. So you have to, you know, have the endurance to go back through. So like, what did the memory smell like? What smells were in the air? The burning oak, the warm, you know, the warmth, the smell of the spray of the water, you know, putting the fire out. What did it taste like? Was there like an acrid scent or taste in the air that you remember?
Interesting.
What do you remember hearing? The sirens, maybe the crickets on a summer day getting, you know, drowned out by the sirens. Did you touch anything? What did the fence feel like? Or what did your father feel like when he was picking you up and carrying you over the gate? And what did it look like? Like, what did the burning oak tree look like? What colors did you see?
Yeah.
What was the blue sky covered with, you know, a film of smoke? Like, those are the things that you have to really stop and think about to like blow the memory up into a scene. And then then there's this idea of the sixth sense. Like, what are you intuiting about? You said it yourself in your piece. You said you felt safe. But is there a way that you would be able to like ultimately describe that feeling without actually saying that you felt safe? That's telling us that you felt safe. That's not showing us and where that feeling came from. So I'm going to read you a little piece that's written by Joanne Beard. It's a short story. It's called Behind the Screen. And she's talking about a time in her childhood where she was banished to a screened-in porch on 4th of July evening because she was having an allergy attack.
Oh.
So she's looking at her sister through the screen. A pop bead necklace, a Timex wristwatch, a mood ring, a charm bracelet that makes a busy metallic rustle every time she moves her arm, which she does frequently. On the charm bracelet, between the high-stepping majorette and the sewing machine with movable parts, is a little silver book that opens like a locket to display the 10 commandments. Every few minutes, she raises and lowers her right arm so that the charm bracelet, which I covet, clanks up to her elbow and then slides slowly and sensuously back down her wrist. She doesn't bother turning around to see how I take this. She knows it's killing me. So it's a great scene.
Yeah.
So what's the sixth sense in that scene? What do you get? What's your takeaway about the relationship between the sisters?
She was annoying. She was annoying her.
Annoying her, yeah.
Jealous, maybe.
Well, I didn't tell you. The sister with the charm bracelet was the older sister.
Oh.
So she's like, she knows she's torturing her younger. So it tells you something about the family dynamic there without it necessarily. She didn't say, you know, I really can't stand my older sister, but she said she coveted her charm bracelet.
Right.
You know, so that's sort of the idea of like your intuition when you're, you know, the unsaid thing.
The unsaid thing.
The other unsaid thing, and I'm not going to talk about sensory experience now because we don't have a lot of time, but the other unsaid thing is this, the metaphorical memory. So when you start to go back to that first memory and you flush it out using all those sensory details, put it down, don't look at it for a couple of days, and go back to it and reread it, and then ask yourself, what is this telling me about the story? Not the story of the thing that actually happened, but the real story, the story that's underneath the scene. And that could be what your place was in the family, or your relationship with your parents, or, you know, whatever other thing there is, because it's those things, those metaphors, those bigger questions that makes a narrative compelling. You know, a journal is only, you know, a journal can be for yourself, or a diary can be for yourself and, you know, recount your life, and that's perfectly interesting for you. But if you want to create something that's tellable and that other people would want to experience along with you, then that's the part of the story you have to find. You have to find the metaphor. You have to find the meaning in the memory. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, no, maybe?
Yes. Yep. It's all good.
All good? So I don't want to make this too like formal, you're going to school type thing, but I'll give you some options. You can stay with the memory that we started, that you started with, and really spend the next week fleshing it out. And then we can share if you'd like at the beginning of class next week. Or if you don't want to do that and you don't like the old memory prompt, I will give you some alternative things to consider writing about. I'll give you 3 alternatives. So if you want to write these down, if you don't want to actually do the memory, then I'll give you some other things. I love this prompt, especially since where we are right now. I think it's so wonderful. Which smells in your life are gone for you now? And which ones would you give anything to smell again?
Say that again.
Which smells are gone for you now? And which ones would you give anything to smell again? So that's an option. I mean, I think staying with the memory is a great one, but if you don't like that one, that's fine. Okay, here's another option, and these are easy to do. These are just lists. What are some things that you would never write about? Write yourself a list. These are the things that I will never write about. And the third one is, I'll give you the villains one, save that. Write a list of foods you love or foods you hate, or both. Do foods you love or foods you hate, or both. Because I guarantee you there's stories in all of those things. There are great stories in all those things.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any questions for me? Is there anything you'd like to do differently next week in terms of format? Was that helpful with the PowerPoint or no?
Yep. It was great.
Yeah. And Gladys, we didn't say hi to you because you joined us late.
Sorry, it was my bad. I put my schedule, my alarm to 12, And I sit here and I start to look for the email to get prepared. And oh my gosh, it started. It's already started. So I'm glad. Hi to everyone. I tried to do this class last semester, but
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
and there was no people interested. It was just a few people, so we could not get the group together. So I was really glad to see that we could have this opportunity, and I'm really sorry that I missed the start of the class. But I'm glad that you recorded it, so I hope that I can get it.
Yeah, it's recording, and I have to figure out how to do that. Like, I know it'll save, and then I just have to figure out how to post it or email you the link so you can see it.
Yes, yes.
I can send you the PowerPoint slides if you want to take a look at the slides. What else can I tell you? Did anybody do the reading? Did anybody have a chance to do the reading?
Yep, loved it.
What did you think?
It was great. Interesting.
What did you think, Mary Jo? I'm curious.
No, oh, in mute. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, I really liked it. I saw the difference of size between the father and the mother was very interesting. And it made me conscious of when I was sighing.
Right.
I thought it was very nicely written.
Yeah, and I love it because, you know, it gives you those moments, but it also, it's very short, and you know, you get this tremendous insight into the family and the relationships and their lives in just this beautiful short essay about what someone's eyes can sound like.
Yeah.
And so that's also sort of the big message, is that the stuff you write about, much of what I write about, I call it the beautiful ordinary, because it's what makes up most of our lives, and it's the stuff to me that's most meaningful. So the beautiful ordinary, find it and write about it. So find it in your memories, and have a great week.
You too, Christine. Thank you so much.
I'll send out a reading for next week, a short one.
Okay.
Okay, have fun. Have fun with the writing.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.